Okay, we're good to go, guys. Let's get it cracking today. We're gonna look at some Ed Sheeran. Some Ed Sheeran.
I'm in love with the shape of you. We push and pull like
Yeah, that's Ed Sheeran. He talks exclusively to BBC London about discovering his creativity in art and how it's raising money to help others. Now I think it's that time of the programme for a bit of Ed Sheeran.
So is this a charity event? Is this a charity? Like, is it charity or is he actually taking his art career serious? I wonder.
Because the pop megastar,
I mean, let's just rewind that real quick.
for a bit of Ed Sheeran, because the pop megastar has revealed a creative side of him that few people knew about. He discovered it a few years ago after taking a break from music.
Discovered it a few years ago. The creative side. So I guess making music isn't creative, but I guess we'll see what this is all about.
And picking up a paintbrush. Money from his artwork goes to charity, and it's on show in Soho. That's where Michael Mackenzie
Does all the money go to charity?
had an exclusive chat with Ed.
I'm in love with the shape of you.
I can't even play that. 1 second. I'm trying to hear
I thought the paintings kind of do seem a bit sort of celestial, spacey, but also I've painted all of them in a disused car park in Soho
a disused car park in Soho.
over the course of the year.
Oh man, I'm gonna mute this. I don't want to get copyrighted. I mean, okay. So he's looking like he's in Breaking Bad, and the paintings literally look like Jackson Pollock. Not hating though. Okay. So this is the talent that he found when he took time off from music. Interesting. I mean, no hate, but
I used to sort of do this when I was little. I used to basically curate art galleries and put on exhibitions. I finished the Divide tour and I didn't want to make music for a bit, but I still wanted to be creative. So I bought a load of canvases then and painted.
interesting. I don't know. My initial reaction is like, this is dog shit, but I guess we'll see what happens. You know, like I love everyone that tries, you know, to do art. I just think this whole, you know, slapping paint on a canvas thing is just everyone does it, and it's been done. I need something more original with this, like to add to it. So, well, like what's the new thing you're doing? Even if it's a derivative, derivatives are totally cool, you know. Even myself, I do a lot of derivative work, but there has to be like an element, maybe different. I'm not saying like he's never seen a Jackson Pollock before.
Painted them and then I gave them to friends, and friends liked them and hung them in their houses.
And then talk to us a little bit about the show, because it's open to the public and anyone can buy these artworks.
It's basically, I sort of felt weird about putting on a show because I'm not an artist, I'm very much a singer, but
So I'm not an artist, I'm very much a singer. Like this just shows me right away like he's not about that life. It's the energy for me that's not doing it. I don't even really hate the artwork. It's more so like, if you're going to do it, like you got to be about it. Like that whole, it's too pretentious to be like, I'm not an artist, but I just, you know, I paint. Like, I don't know. That energy is kind of weak.
I'd done all these paintings and I have a music foundation, so I was like, I'm going to sell them to raise money for the foundation, which funds basically music in state schools and grassroots clubs and stuff like that.
Okay, I love that part. I love that he's funding, you know, using it for charity. So maybe it's just a charity thing. That's cool.
There's instruments and music lessons, and I quite like the idea of art funding art.
And then what are you hoping people take away from coming to see this show?
I hope people see it and go, I want to give that a go. That looks fun, because, you know,
I don't mind though. It's like interior design art. You know, there's like this whole category of interior design art where you just hang it up on your wall and it looks good in spaces, and interior designers could use it to curate houses or mansions or whatever. So, you know, it's a thing, especially if you can't afford a Pollock, which 90% of the world can't. So
Regardless of
99% of the world can't afford a Pollock, so they're probably going to get an Ed Sheeran original.
the end product, how I felt doing them made me feel great. Like it felt really fun and freeing to just be.
Honestly, we have to dive into a Pollock now and like look at where this came from, because this is look at this. Greed art explained. So these are like opinion based things. I want to look at, like, I don't want to look at the overrated aspect of it. I want to see what it's about, you know, kind of. Okay, there you go. How it changed.
Mr. Pollock, in your opinion, what is the meaning of modern art?
Modern art to me is nothing more than the expression of contemporary aims. The thing that interests me is that today painters do not have to go to a subject matter outside of themselves. Most modern painters work from a different source. They work from within.
I mean, right away, I could just tell there's a lot of intention just off those two strokes. I don't know what is, like, I actually don't know enough about Jackson Pollock to talk about him, but we're going to talk about him today, and I'm going to learn with you guys.
In other words, expressing the energy, the motion.
I know there's rumors of him being like some sort of CIA plant or some stuff allegedly, but we'll dive into that too.
And other inner forces.
I suppose every time you're approached by a layman, they ask you how they should look at a Pollock painting or what they look for. How do they learn to appreciate modern art?
I think they should not look for, but look passively and try to receive what the painting has to offer.
Not look for, look passively, and look at what the painting has to offer. Interesting.
I think it should be enjoyed just as music is enjoyed. After a while, you may like it or may not, but I think at least give it a chance.
Okay.
Saw that at the Whitney Museum when it was on 54th Street. I was kind of wowed. The oranges, the yellows were terrific.
Okay.
The white, splendid. There was
I mean, there's a lot of maturity here. Like, let's compare the both. 1 second. I mean, realistically, like, can we even tell the difference? I don't know. Like, up close like this, I can't tell. I mean, I'd be lying if you put both of these together just like that. I'd be lying to you if I could say I could tell the difference. To be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I would be straight up lying if I could. Let's look at this. I'm gonna put on captions too. I mean, let's continue.
the atmosphere, gentle and delicate and tough and aggressive.
I mean, there's definitely a difference here with this. There's more kind of aggression, and this looks very random. This looks like he drip paint, kind of like you can see in this stroke right here. I know it sounds crazy, but it's like there's a lot more intention with this.
And somehow,
I like the color.
how
In this
they're
one.
all that at the same time. That's very unusual.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. That's really cool. That's a really sick piece. Like, that's there's still depth to it, and there's form. I could start seeing a lot of things within this. It doesn't seem like it's just randomly splattered on there.
It was available for sale for $6,000.
So this piece was $6,000. Now it's what, hundreds of millions? I wonder. Like, let's look at like how much is a Pollock painting worth. Jackson Pollock paintings cost anywhere from $10 for a canvas print to a record-breaking, so $181.2 million for original masterwork at auction. That is insane. That is absolutely crazy. So we're $200 million in 2015. Wow. I mean, that's crazy.
By the time I bought it, $32,000. So it's a pretty good rise in a couple of years. According to Lee Pollock, I was Jackson's closest friend, but by the time he died, I was very much pro Jackson's work and importance. I think of the apartment. It's impossible to have such glory in one.
I mean, we'll dive into this too. These are Rothkos, I believe. Yeah, this is okay. This
Place.
is interesting.
It's more than you
Like that's a lot of money in one place. Like that is.
can expect anything to be. It was there for a while, and then it broke up.
I don't know. To me, like there's just no like this is. There's a maturity missing in it. It just looks like those Miami. This just looks like those Miami paintings like that you would get at like it's just new money type painting. It's just there's a stark difference between that and this. Like that is actually crazy. I'm not gonna like that is insane. Like I love that. The colors, the looks amazing. My bad guys. There's a motorcycle outside of my crib. Okay, he's leaving now. Perfect. So this painting right here, I don't know. There's a lot of maturity to it. I don't see that in Ed Sheeran's work at all. If we're comparing them both,
It was there for a while, and then it broke up.
but you know what? I'm done with comparing. Let's actually just dive into the master.
When you're actually commissioned to create a national art gallery, where on earth do you start?
It depends on your ambition. It also depends on the sort of funding you have. If funds are low and ambition is low, then you might make yourself a gallery which is for the local community. If you're called the National Gallery in a country such as this, I think you really have to work a little bit harder than that. And we are attempting to build up a large number of varied collections.
So is this in Australia? I don't know what this has to do with the documentary, but I guess we'll see.
All on the grounds that there's a great deal of excellent material still available. Let's bring it into the country.
James Mollison, the first director of the National Gallery in Australia, and the then Prime Minister Gough Whitlam in 1973 decided to go for broke.
Decided to go for broke. That seems to be like the same painting. I don't know if I'm mistaken, but
To make a purchase that was $2 million American dollars for one painting.
So he bought it for I think the guy said it was $30,000 or something. Like he bought it for $9 million, then it was 30, and then now they're buying it for $2 million.
The most expensive American painting to that time. It created so much controversy.
Oh, so this okay, wow. So Melbourne, that's crazy. Okay. So it wasn't even an American buyer that popped off Pollock. It was
Because Australian taxpayers thought it was a waste of money.
With few exceptions, it was negative media coverage.
Okay, so all negative media coverage. That's super important.
Either against the painting or against the National Gallery or against the government.
And this is one thing that I'll say that Ed Sheeran is doing good, because he will get a lot of hate for this. Whether like it creates controversy or it's actually just bad art, we'll discuss in a bit, but I think that this is
Gough Whitlam.
In those
So what is that? What is that cartoon right there?
The painting or against the National Gallery or against
Bird in space, woman, the pole ceiling.
the government of Gough Whitlam.
In those days, $2 million American dollars was 1.3 million Australian, and the Metropolitan Museum that year bought a Rembrandt for $2 million American dollars.
So they bought a Rembrandt for $2 million American dollars, and then they also bought a Pollock. So
And we bought a very large, very splashy, very abstract painting for the same price. Everybody can see how valuable and important a Rembrandt painting is. Most people in Australia did not really approve of abstract painting because they thought it was a sort of con. They thought we were being taken for a ride by these slick New York art dealers. Robert Hughes was a great fan of Pollock. He was an Australian art historian and critic who'd gone to New York in the 19th.
all it really takes is someone to see the vision.
60s. And he strongly recommended that we buy it because of Pollock's importance in the 20th century.
Your eye travels into that exquisite web of paint, as though you were pushing your way through a forest.
Like, I mean, at this time it was groundbreaking because no one had the balls to like do some shit like this.
Discovering layer after layer of space and detail, it's as strictly organized as a ucello, a formal minuet of energy. Perhaps it's that playoff between the huge size of the canvas and the care with which Pollock inflected every inch of it that makes Blue Pole so absorbing. There are critics, quite eminent ones, who dislike it because it's not flat, not a continuous all-over pattern. Others disagree, and I'm one of them. In my opinion, this is one of the 2 or 3 supreme works of Pollock's career, a feat of lyric invention.
So it's called Blue Poles. That's what these poles are, I guess. I mean, it's elevated than just your slap paint on a canvas. Let's try to find, because what this reminds me of is like, this shit reminds me of like circle painting, like splash painting. It's like something you would see at like, hey, come here and pay $20 so you could splash paint on a canvas, you know? Just everyone's aunt, uncle, everyone in the world could do something like this, honestly. Yeah, I don't even want to play this. But yeah, basically, like, that's kind of where I'm at with this.
Pollock is sort of from nowhere. He's from Cody, Wyoming, and in the 1920s and 30s in the New York art world, people weren't from Cody, Wyoming. They were from Armenia, Russia.
So this guy's an art critic for, I believe, the New York Times, Jerry Saltz.
Holland, France, Germany, all the expatriates that fled during the pogroms, Stalin, and of course, World War II.
There was a sense of America as the great site for the future of art. All the bad news in Europe transferred into good news for all of the expatriates and then all of the young artists in the US who felt like here was a torch that had been passed. Artists in the US who felt like here was a...
Ann Temkin, chief curator of the MoMA. Interesting. This is 2 years ago, by the way.
Torch that had been passed for them to be the next great cultural revolution after Paris.
American artists have to deal with a supernova named Picasso. How do you get around something so epically huge that's happened just before you? Artists have had to face this before in the past. Think of Michelangelo. How do you follow that act? You ape it, and then you have to change it.
You ape it, and then you have to change it. Okay.
Willem de Kooning famously said, Pollock broke the ice.
So it's also like the era in which you do it too. Like during that era, yeah. During that era, Picasso was the biggest, and that happened very recently, just before Pollock. So Pollock had to do something drastically different than Picasso. If he started drawing figures with their faces all distorted and stuff, everyone would just compare him to Picasso because it was so close in the period of time. But now with this new style, it changed the landscape of everything.
What Pollock did was deploy something that had been there from the beginning, from cave paintings, the drip. But no one thought to look at it, use it, or to even count it as art. Okay. He's making paintings in a new way.
So no one had ever done paintings like this before.
He's putting them on the floor?
I'm sure there was, but we could do deep research and figure that out. But the first one to fame it.
The brush is never touched to the canvas. Instead, there's a physical dance around the canvas. There is no perspective in Pollock's painting. There is no narrative in Pollock's painting. It all happens at once.
I wonder if he was rich when he was living. One second. Because I'm really curious to know about this. He was not wealthy, so he was financially successful during the last several years of his life, but he was not wealthy for the most of it. So in the 1930s to early 40s, he struggled financially. He worked odd jobs and even participated in the government's Federal Act project during the Great Depression, earning modest wage. Mid-40s, things changed after collector Peggy Guggenheim began supporting him. She gave him a monthly stipend and exhibited his work, providing financial stability. I mean, damn, you would get a monthly salary to be an art, like that's pretty sick. Hey, come work for me and we're gonna pay you a monthly salary, but we're gonna sell your paintings for millions of dollars and keep it all. Kind of funny. So the late 40s and 50s, Pollock became one of the most famous living American artists. So it took 30, 40. So he was still doing art during that time, but it took maybe 5 years, 5 to 10 years. His paintings began selling for thousands of dollars, a significant amount at the time. He bought a home in Springs, Long Island, and was featured in Life magazine in 1949, which dramatically raised his profile. So in 1949 is when everything popped off, I guess. The biggest difference came after his death. His paintings skyrocketed in value. In 2006, number 5, 1948, reportedly sold privately for around $140 million. Today, many of his major works are valued in the tens of even hundreds of millions of dollars. So he was successful and financially comfortable when he died, but he never experienced the immense wealth that his art generated after his death. It's so crazy that always happens. A lot of the times happens, but you know, I'm pretty sure Picasso was actually rich while he was living, but we'll explore that in a bit. Let's continue this doc.
This is a breakthrough of kind of epic proportions. You may not like what you're seeing as Pollock, but what Pollock did is actually jump categories. He made something that was a painting that did not look like a painting at the time. I want to remind you, going back to the caves, the first paintings ever made were often made with paint like this.
I mean, it's a little bit of a reach because they weren't splashing horses onto the rock, but let's see what he says. Whoa.
And you would move your hand away. And that physical action,
That's crazy. That's insane. I take that back. That's amazing. Look at this. Like, you put paint in your mouth or whatever, chalk, and you spit, and it creates a handprint.
Dance left the impression of where you were.
It seems like he did all his paintings outdoors too, which is hilarious. Like he didn't even paint this shit in the studio.
Mr. Pollock,
I mean, at the end of the day, you don't need a fancy studio to make good art, guys.
Classical artists had a world to express, and they did so by representing the objects in that world. Why doesn't the modern artist...
Oh, so he's painting landscapes from... Interesting. That's why he's outside.
Do the same thing.
The modern artist is living in a mechanical age. And we have mechanical means of representing objects in nature, such as the camera and the photograph. It seems to me that the modern painter cannot express this age the airplane, the atom bomb, the radio, and the old forms of the Renaissance or of any other past culture. Each age finds its own technique. I happen to find ways that are different from the usual techniques of painting.
Really cool what he's saying here. He's basically saying, like, when it evolves, when technology evolves, like, so does the technique of painting as well.
I'm able to be more free and move about the canvas with greater ease.
There is this desire on his part to just be utterly.
I love that shot. That's so cool. I guess they're shooting from underneath a glass pane and he's painting on it.
Blunt, almost as if painting were an animal act, like breathing or moving, than some kind of intellectual labor. This is where the idea of him as a West Coast cowboy figure comes in. The cliche.
I mean, you see how there's a story, there's so much depth behind this art. There's so much depth. Now there's two hands to this. It's are they over explaining to make up for the simplicity of the art, and is it a farce? Or is it truly the intention of what he was doing at the time, you know? So, okay, cool, I'm painting, like, I'm representing what the modern, you know, view of society is through my lens, you know? Whereas comparative to Ed Sheeran, it was just like, oh, I'm not an artist, I just like throwing paint on a canvas. Like, there's zero depth to it whatsoever. And it kind of shows, honestly, in the painting as well.
About Pollock is that he's more the brawn than the brain, but that's a myth in its own way. And certainly he was very well read. Psychoanalysis, whether you're talking Freud, whether you're talking Jungian ideas, all of this was so current in New York at that time. Theories of the unconscious. This was all thinking and writing that he would have been exposed to around downtown New York. So he was very well aware. But like any great figure, he translated it into his own form of art. He didn't illustrate these ideas in a way that you could then explain his work through.
This breakthrough is huge. When you think about everything that follows Pollock and the abstract expressionist.
So abstract expressionist. What's the definition of that? What's the definition of an abstract expressionist? It was an art movement that emerged in New York in the 1940s and 50s. It emphasized emotion, spontaneity, and the physical act of painting over realistic representation. Instead of depicting recognizable subjects, artists used gesture, color, texture, and scale to communicate feeling. It's pretty funny. It's kind of how when I did the paintings with the ketchup bottles. I'll show you guys. Yeah, I did these paintings with, like, I filled ketchup bottles, mustard bottles with paint, and then I painted on these canvases. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, right there. What I want to do, like, maybe and I honestly thought like graffiti was it, like that's it till I die, like, you know. And then also evolved into so many different facets to graffiti. Like graffiti evolved in. So these paintings I did all with mustard ketchup bottles. So maybe that's an evolution too. I wasn't really thinking of it at the time. Sometimes you don't really, you know, the best ideas you're not really thinking too much about.
Space is now pretty much gone. You have Andy Warhol just telling people to make silk screens. You have Jasper Johns repainting targets and numbers. You have Robert Rauschenberg painting on beds.
Interesting.
Think about that. The famous abstract expressionist Barnett Newman said of their time, "We are making it out of ourselves." That meant they wanted nothing of European painting. They wanted to leave it behind and start anew.
Make it American. So this seems to be the famous one, the blue poles.
Tell me, what was it about it that you liked so much, or that you liked sufficiently to want to buy it?
Shout out to the Aussies, by the way, for revolutionizing the art game, I guess.
Or the fact that it's absolutely central to the abstract expressionist movement. And also...
I mean, abstract expressionism, you could say the Aussies were responsible for the explosion of it.
That of Pollock's paintings, it's one that is absolutely, totally resolved. Every part of it is painted, and the alterations to the surface of the painting have never been commented on by anybody to the present time. Many of those apparently irrational loops in the picture are in fact altered in colour from the colour that was originally trickled onto the surface of the paint. Now, it's a contrived picture in every way.
It is certainly the most important.
Those apparent things, it's one that is absolutely, totally resolved. Every part of it is painted, and the alterations to the surface of the painting have never been commented on by anybody to the present time. Many of those apparently irrational loops in the picture are in fact altered in colour.
It seems like there's a little bit of smoke being blown, but he's saying like the unintentional loops in the painting have been recolored with other unintentional loops.
From the colour that was originally trickled onto the surface of the paint. Now, it's a contrived picture in every way.
It is certainly the most important American picture, perhaps in all time.
6 feet by 16 feet. I mean, that's a big painting. Damn.
It's one of the few paintings in the history of the world that nearly brought down a government. Whitlam was a reforming Prime Minister, a progressive person. The Labor government was very important after 23 years of Conservative government. And in a way, the people who objected to abstract art tended to be traditionalists, and the people who championed it tended to be progressive. The split down the middle was that the progressive people who wanted an Australian-only culture, not realising how regressive this is. You've got to have both. And Pollock provided something new and different and exciting. It was first seen as an anti-Australian purchase, a cultural cringe that we didn't value Australian art enough. But in effect, what it's done is brought Australian art into the same range as international art, so that when you come to the National Gallery, when you go to any of the museums in Australia, you see the world through Australian eyes. And that's what Blue Poles did, was to make Australia a representative of international and American and modern culture.
It shows the extraordinary power of art.
Fame, death, and the CIA. Let's look at this a little bit. Interesting.
The story goes that in 1947, Pollock...
Test. My mic sometimes gives me a little bit of problems, but I think we're good. Right there. Okay, cool.
Threw his brushes and palettes aside, grabbed some sticks, and started flinging paint directly onto a canvas on the floor, instinctually inventing a new kind of energetic, artistic expression and changing the course.
Someone in the chat said, "Press your cheeks on the canvas." I like that. It's funny.
Of contemporary art. Except he didn't invent it. Pollock's signature style wasn't his invention at all, and the drip painting technique already existed.
Well, there you go, guys. So, nothing is original in life, but I don't judge artists based on that. I judge it based on a lot of other things. I just think that nothing is original. When you start doing a deep dive, there's always going to be someone that did it for, like, it's almost impossible to come up with an idea that's truly original. Everything's a derivative, whether it's from two things, from one thing. But I'm very curious to see what this doc says, because I've never watched this one.
One of the earliest proponents and a major influence on Pollock was the forgotten woman of art history, Janet Sobel, a self-taught Ukrainian-born artist who also happened to be a grandmother.
1 second, guys. I gotta adjust my camera real quick. Okay, we're good to go. Wait. Nope. Okay. Okay, we're good now.
When she first took up painting. In 1945, Sobel was already exhibiting her drip paintings in New York, when the influential art critic Clement Greenberg, who would become one of Pollock's greatest supporters, described her work as the first all-over compositions with abstract rhythms that span the entire canvas. In 1946, she was given a solo show at Peggy Guggenheim's gallery, and we know Pollock visited the exhibition and even admitted her work had made an impression on him. Shortly after that,
interesting. I wonder where he admitted that, but yeah, that's crazy.
He produced his first drip painting.
So that's his first drip painting. I like the colors. Really cool. Like, I would definitely hang that in my house. Like, no, like, there's no problem. I love Pollock's work.
There were other lesser-known artists
who's this artist,
when she
though?
first took up painting. In 19, a major influence on Pollock was the forgotten woman of art history. Wasn't his invention at all, and a
Janet Sobel.
Major influence on Pollock was took up painting. In 1945, there were other lesser-known artists who used the drip technique even earlier, but it's important to state that Pollock should use the drip technique.
So this is Nud Merrild in 1942 did the drip technique. So it was done, but it seems like Pollock visited this lady's gallery and saw it.
Technique even earlier, but it's important to state that Pollock's achievements weren't just in the technique that he employed, but in the radical nature of the works he produced with those techniques.
Well, method seems to me, a natural growth out of a need. And from a need, the modern artist has found new ways of expressing the world about him.
So it's about expressing the new world that we live in. That seems to be his message.
In 1945, Pollock and Krasner had moved to East Hampton, where he created that first drip painting, in a converted barn behind their farmhouse. Pollock finally had the studio he'd always wanted, the space, the quiet, and the distance from the bars of New York gave him the freedom to go further than ever before. Now he had the room not only to work on a much larger scale, but also to place those large canvases on the floor.
Like, is this his sketch, or is this just kind of a depiction of like how he did it?
Without that barn, there would likely be no number 1 1949, no autumn rhythm, no drip period. Thanks to Krasner, Pollock had his drinking sort of under control, at least for now. Whilst not entirely sober, he was less erratic, and these years proved to be his most productive.
It's funny. You think, like, as an artist, the crazier you get, the more drunk you get, the more high you get off drugs, the better output you're going to have. But it definitely seems, especially from this, that this is where he was able to, you know, do the most productive work, which is pretty cool. It's also a lesson, like, you know, I feel like myself, even with me, like, when I was getting high and drunk and all this other stuff, I was hardly producing. There was a lot of ideas coming up, but I was hardly producing at the level that I do now when I don't really need to do any of that stuff when I'm painting.
During this time, he would produce some of the greatest works, thanks to a unique combination of physical space, emotion,
See, there's Blue
greatest
Poles
works.
Blue Poles, 1952.
Thanks to a unique combination of physical space, emotional calm provided by Krasner, and
Now, Krasner was his, I'm wondering, was that his
creative
wife?
freedom, all of which he desperately needed after years.
So it seems like everything was on this beige. Like, it seems like it was on raw canvas. It seems like he didn't even gesso it. He just did it on raw canvas. I might be wrong, but I don't know. Actually, that's something I kind of want to look up on. Let's see right now. Did he paint? Let's look on ChatGPT. See what's up. Yes, often but not always. He frequently worked on unprimed raw cotton duck canvas, laid directly on the floor of his studio. Painting on raw canvas allowed the liquid enamel to paint to soak into the fibers instead of sitting on top, creating softer edges and stained effects. Become physically integrated with the canvas surface. So he used alkyd enamels, house paint, rather than traditional oil paint for many of his famous drip paintings because they flowed more easily. Some of his works were painted on prime canvas, especially earlier paintings and some later commissions. It wasn't a strict rule. Raw canvas print absorbs into the fabric, giving a matte, stained, organic look. It's harder to correct mistakes, and oils can eventually damage untreated canvases. Prime canvas, paint sits on the surface, colors stay brighter, detail remains crisper, and the work is generally more archival. What about Blue Poles? Let's see what that's about. So Blue Poles is a bit different from many of Pollock's classic drip paintings. It's made with enamel and aluminum paint on canvas with pieces of glass embedded in places. What? That's crazy. There's no definite published evidence that Blue Poles wasn't executed on raw canvas. Many art historians believe that by 1952, Pollock was working on both primed and unprimed canvases depending on the effect he wanted. Because Blue Poles contains very thick passages of paint, brushwork, and very large blue vertical poles that were added later in the process, conservators generally don't point to the painting as a classic example of his raw canvas stain technique. Interesting. Poured and drip paint recalls his earlier all-over paintings. The 8 Blue Poles were introduced later with a brush, giving the composition more structure. There are denser, that's interesting. So he added the poles later to the painting. So it's almost like a collaboration of styles. I love to do that too, honestly. That's what I did with these camo paintings right here. So I did the camouflage. I loved the camouflage, but then I also did the Ozempic crosses on them, which I thought, was really, really cool. That's interesting. Okay, cool.
Of chaos, instability, and urban distractions. In the summer of 1950, at the height of his career, Pollock created one of the most iconic paintings of the 20th century. One, number 31, 1950, is vast, over 8 feet high and 17 feet wide. It dominates the room and sucks you in. The work is sometimes described as the result of accidents, but Pollock bristled at that word.
It seems to be possible to control the flow of the paint to a great extent, and I don't use the accident over the paint.
As the room and sucks you in.
Okay.
The work is
so scale is really important when you're painting this style, it seems.
Sometimes described as the result of accidents, but Pollock bristled at that word.
So Pollock disagreed with the word accident. He said, no, this isn't an accident. This is exactly how I intended it to be.
It seems to be possible to control the flow of the paint to a great extent. And I don't use the accident. I deny the accident.
In fact, he poured enormous energy, both mental and physical, into creating unique paintings that held meaning for him. If we compare two paintings of his, for example, this one from 1940.
I mean, that's sick. I love that. That's a cool ass painting.
48, and this one painted 2 years later. The contrasts are striking. Both use similar materials and methods, but each has a distinct tone.
Technique is just a means of arriving at a statement. I want to express my feelings rather than illustrate them.
By the time he came to
I want to express my feelings rather than illustrate them.
I want to express my feelings rather than illustrate them.
By the time he came to paint one number 31, he had already abandoned the easel for the floor.
Having the canvas on the floor, I feel nearer, more a part of the...
So he painted a lot on the floor. Okay, cool. I mean, I've never really used an easel. I don't like using easel. I like painting on the floor too. It's really cool. Except when I'm painting, like when I'm actually...
the painting. This way I can walk around it, work from all four sides, and be in the painting.
He used oil, enamel, and aluminium paint, dripping, flicking, and pouring it directly from the can or off the end of a stick, squeezing it directly from tubes.
Squeezing it from tubes. I mean, that reminds me of this.
It's so like funny. Punk Hispanic culture. You know, they're like different.
I'm just gonna find this clip of me painting real quick. Yeah, like that's there you go.
You know, like you might look at this for 5 weeks hung up on your wall. And
very interesting.
And even using a turkey baster.
A turkey baster.
Pollock also used his hands to lightly smear colour across the canvas. There are no figures, not even veiled ones as in earlier works by Pollock.
Oh, so this is an earlier work. Okay, well he painted this. He wasn't doing drip paintings at the time. Interesting.
But the painting still feels composed. A series of strong black lines dances across the surface, creating a sense of rhythm and order that holds the flurry of marks together. The quality of Pollock's lines was shaped by a range of physical and material factors, which he could adjust in countless ways. These included the thickness and flow of the paint, which he manipulated by adding thinner, the angle and speed at which he poured it, and the physical gestures of his body, particularly the motion of his wrist, arm and shoulder, which functioned like a seismograph, capturing the emotional and physical energy of the artist's gestures.
I mean, you could pretty much describe anything like with this, with the English language and embellish it. So I don't know. It's cool. Like I get it, and I understand the depth of it for sure. But is it that deep? Who knows?
Pollock also enhanced his compositions by flicking, splashing or dabbing secondary colours onto the primary network of lines. He orchestrated every element. His all-over style defied traditional composition. There's no focal point. Your eye doesn't know where to settle, but that is the point. You move across the surface, treating every area as equally important. The result is immersive. Pollock embraced the physicality of his materials. Paint sits thickly on the canvas. Bits of sand, cigarette butts, enamel and wood shavings. We can even find an unlucky housefly embedded in the surface. Some areas he...
So they found a housefly. Sorry, another motorcycle going by, but yeah, another housefly.
Just left bare. The whole thing crackles with energy and texture and life. In 1950...
It's just like the the furthest extent of zero fucks. That's what his paintings are. That's why I like them, to be honest. You can say what you want, and his brushstrokes were intentional and this and that and whatever, but like I think it's like the highest form of zero fucks in a painting.
Time magazine published an article describing Pollock's work as chaos.
It's very punk.
Was infuriated and wired back, "No chaos, damn it." And he was right. It's not chaos, and it's not random. Some people say it's easy to fake a Pollock painting, but it's not. In person, his drip paintings have an emotional pull that's hard to reproduce. Scientists think the reason might lie in fractals, complex geometric patterns that repeat at different scales. They're often seen in nature, in tree branches, coastlines, and snowflakes. Studies show that looking at fractals activates areas of the brain linked to aesthetic judgment and emotional regulation, making us calm. In 1999, a peer-reviewed scientific paper revealed that Pollock's seemingly chaotic compositions actually contain these same fractal patterns.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's insane, honestly.
His brushwork has a hidden order, one that mimics the natural world. Forged Pollocks, by contrast, tend to lack this quality. This might explain why his paintings can evoke the same sense of awe and introspection we often feel in nature. Seen in this
that's amazing. That's so cool.
light, Pollock's statement from 1946, "I am nature," makes perfect sense. The artist was at the height of his fame, a denim-clad, camel-smoking poster boy for the abstract expressionists. His growing reputation caught the attention of photographer Hans Namath, who had taken photos of Pollock already, but now wanted to make a film of him at work. The artist was hesitant. He worried about performance interfering with authenticity.
Interesting. So he never really captured his process before this time.
Painting for him was a private process, not a show. In the end, he agreed to be filmed by Namath. It is one of the most important films in art history, and it was said by some to be the end of Pollock.
To be the end of Pollock, wow. So it destroyed his career.
Under the protection of our freedoms.
So sometimes you have to protect the process. The process, yeah, like in this day of like social media and everything, like we want to show everything. We want to show the whole entire process, but sometimes you have to protect that. Certain pieces, you could selectively show what you want to show and still save a lot for yourself.
American labor, management, and capital, the greatest production team in the history of mankind.
By the late 1940s, the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union was hotting up. The Soviet Union was already using art and culture to promote communism worldwide, with state-sponsored socialist realism.
So socialist realism now. Let's see what that is. Socialist realism. Was the official state-approved art style of the Soviet Union from 1930s onward. So abstract expressionism emphasized personal emotion and abstraction. Socialist realism was designed to be clear, optimistic, and ideological. So highly realistic, easy to understand, heroic and idealized, bright, clean, and optimistic, monumental in scale, focused on collective achievement rather than individual struggle. So factory workers, farmers, soldiers, scientists, children. Wow. Depicted some pretty evil people. The art was expected to show hard work as noble. So it's just like propaganda, essentially. Okay. Let's go back to this.
In contrast to the rigid propaganda used by the Soviets, the CIA, through covert programs, wanted to show that America fostered freedom of thought and creativity. key democratic ideals, and abstract expressionism, with its non-conformist avant-garde style, became the ideal symbol of American cultural freedom.
So it essentially became the symbol of freedom, being able to express yourself as an individual.
These explosive, emotive
But I guess where they're getting at, I don't know if I'm right or not, but like maybe this itself was propaganda from from the U.S. government.
Spoke of a society where artists were free to explore, to rebel, and to show individuality. You may not like abstract expressionism, but it really didn't matter, because it was sending a clear signal that in America, everyone is free. This was a sharp contrast to what was being produced in the Soviet Union.
So right here, this is socialist realism right here. Socialist realism. Showing like, hey, like as a society, we are all working together, but it like lacks that sense of freedom because it's hard labor.
The paintings were unpredictable, wild, and deeply personal. Everything that would not be allowed under communism in the Soviet Union.
So communism forbid abstract expressionism. Interesting.
And so, in a strange quirk of art history, it came to be that the CIA quietly supported the international promotion of abstract expressionism as a weapon in the ideological battle between the US and the Soviet Union. Institutions like the Congress for Cultural Freedom, secretly funded by the CIA.
Congress for Cultural Freedom. It's the most significant and controversial cultural organizations of the Cold War. It was founded in 1950 in West Berlin. Interesting. International network of writers, artists, philosophers, musicians, and intellectuals dedicated to defending liberal democracy and opposing Soviet communism. So after World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union weren't only competing militarily, they were competing culturally. The U.S. wanted to demonstrate that free society produced richer, more innovative culture rather than promoting overt propaganda. And it started sponsoring art exhibitions, literary magazines, concerts, conferences, academic exchanges, intellectual journals. So this is why the CCF is often mentioned alongside artists like Jackson Pollock and Mark Rothko.
Helped showcase the works of Pollock, Mark Rothko, and others around the world by funding institutions like the Museum of Modern Art's international program. It was ironic, as the great majority of Americans in the 1950s disliked or even despised modern art, and many of the artists were politically left-leaning, anti-establishment, and in some cases outright hostile to US government's authority, and had no idea their work was being used as propaganda. And it wasn't just fine art. The CIA supported a whole range of activities. They financially supported a literary magazine.
So, like, was the CIA behind buying some of these pieces? I'm really curious.
Modern dance performances and other forms of avant-garde artistic expressions to further demonstrate the diversity and freedom of America.
I mean, the irony, we think we're being so free, but the irony is like we're just brainwashed to be working for the CIA. It's crazy.
American culture. Let's finish this strange chapter of art history by making it clear that abstract expressionism was already established as the most exciting and influential art movement of its time. The CIA didn't invent it, but they recognized its power as a propaganda tool and helped amplify its reach.
So they amplified it. So they didn't create it. They amplified it.
If anything, it complicates the story. But for me, that contradiction is part of what makes it so compelling.
Of the Guggenheim Cylindrical Museum, just opened in New York.
Abstract expressionism became part of the story of how America didn't just grow into a military and economic superpower, it became a cultural one too. Pollock's fame exploded in the late 1940s and early 1950s, especially after a 1949 Life magazine article asked, "Is he the greatest living painter in the United States?" This publicity turned him into a household name almost overnight.
Wow. And that was in what year?
Asked is, especially after a 1949 Life magazine article asked, "Is he?"
This is like prime.
He the greatest living painter in the United States? This publicity turned him into a household name almost overnight.
I had to say to him, Pollock, never listen to what's written about you.
There were many great painters around at the time of Pollock's rise, but in an era of great patriotism, the myth of a so-called self-taught cowboy painter from the Midwest was the perfect fit for the great American artist. The image of Pollock as a rebellious, macho, hard-drinking genius aligned with post-war American ideals of individuality and innovation, turning him into an embodiment of the new American avant-garde.
So yeah, they really pushed this. That's crazy.
Cement Pollock's status as a modern art icon, it also supported, loved, and promoted him for 15 years. In 1956, Pollock had begun an affair with a much younger admirer, Ruth Kligman. Krasner, the woman who had supported, loved, and promoted him.
So Krasner was his partner in crime, essentially.
For 15 years, had had enough and flew to Paris. On the night of the 11th of August, Pollock, drunk and agitated, said he would drive Kligman and her friend Edith Metzger to a party. Pollock and Metzger were killed instantly. Kligman was thrown from the car and survived. Krasner was visiting friends in Paris when she received the call.
So he died in a car accident. Very interesting. Okay, cool. That's Pollock. Let's go back to so yeah, that all stemmed from Ed Sheeran's splash paintings. I feel like he's not the only one that's doing stuff like that, but